So welcome to the middle. We're right in the middle today. The season of Easter has 7 Sundays. We're in the 4th Sunday of Easter. If you like symmetry, you'll feel right at home today. This middle place is important. When we look backwards, our gospel readings have been giving us resurrection stories, glimpses of the resurrected Christ. Today we shift over, though, and today we begin to explore the intimacy of the love of God. So today is Good Shepherd, and if you're the type who likes to peek at the episodes in the series before you commit to the series, next week we have I'm the vine, you are the branches, as an image of the intimacy of God's love. From there we have love one another as I have loved you, and a command to go and be fruitful. And then the last Sunday of Easter, we have Jesus' prayer for the disciples. So settle in, and we're going to learn about the intimacy of God's love. And what a great way to start today. The imagery in the readings for today is just priceless. Just absolutely priceless. I think the other thing exciting for this cycle to be in this place in this time is we can look at these readings with a whole new word, and that word is totality. I don't know if totality was in your vernacular, if it was in your everyday speech before the 8th of April. It wasn't in mine, and now I have a whole new word. I don't know if you approached April 8th the way I did. I had just a little bit of a roll of the eyes, what's the big deal here? April 8th was a very busy day. I had just finished, or it was the last day of about 2 years of chaplain training, so I was working hard to wrap that up and to reflect. But as the time came for totality, I thought, well, I should get up and go and see this. And I don't know if that was the route you took. I hope you were more engaged with it all along. But once I got there, just the vast wow, the grandeur of God's creation in that moment, the excitement and the awe. So I wonder, how do we get that sense of wow to keep going? And why would we want to? There's a new book that was just published, and we're not in the book selling business, and I have it here, so you can flip through the table of contents before you go to Amazon on it. This is written by a psychologist at Berkeley. It just came out last year. The title, Awe, and then the subtitle here, The New Science of Everyday Wonder and How It Can Transform Your Life. Okay, wow. Now, if you just came from the adult forum, you've already consumed a good portion of the book because we have a love-hate relationship with the word awe, going all the way back to the book of Acts, as we learned just about 30 minutes ago. What he's saying, though, in a contemporary view of awe, from the lens of a psychologist, is this: the secret of a good life. He says, 20 years into teaching happiness, and I have found the secret of a good life. Find awe. And so for awe, he's saying that feeling of being in the presence of something vast that transcends your current understanding of the world. He goes on to say, awe is almost always nearby and is a pathway to healing and growth in the face of losses and traumas that are part of life. And here's the tough part from a psychologist who has spent his life studying happiness. Those with wealth and status have a more difficult time finding awe. Well, so as I hinted earlier, awe is all over in the imagery from nature and in the type of love that we get when we look at the intimacy of God in today's readings, the Good Shepherd. So almost like a giant billboard or a neon sign or one of those flashing directional signs, it seems that this common theme, this imagery theme, is just pointing us right to maybe Earth Day, maybe instructions for Earth Day, because that's the other piece. Between the learning of the word totality and tomorrow, we're right in the middle of an opportunity here. Let's get to the readings, though. some of the imagery: green pastures, still waters, pathways, banquet, anointing, a cup overflowing. And that's just the psalm. From there, we have the warm, fuzzy, romantic imagery of the shepherd and the lamb, the love and care in that relationship. We can imagine in our mind, like the cover of the bulletin today, those art images with Jesus in the white robe and the tender, loving embrace of a lamb, usually across his shoulders in a beautiful landscape. We have images also where we're told if one lamb gets away, that loving care will go and seek that lamb, and somehow miraculously the other 99 stay together. So maybe we have a little bit of work to do on this image of shepherd, because when he comes back or she comes back with that one lamb, I don't think the 99 are going to be together still. So if you'll allow me for just a little bit to talk farmer with you. I think I've confessed this. I'm from a rural part of Oklahoma, up in northwest Oklahoma. My cousins raised lambs. And growing up, other close family friends had lambs. And this is an important part of the story. That romantic imagery that we hold is maybe not the real story. And that's maybe not the real story that those in the original audience would have understood. They would have raised lambs themselves. They would have been much closer to nature than we are in a major metropolitan area like this. They would know full well the challenge of the lambs. Lambs are not real bright. Lambs are overly trusting. Lambs are curious and innocent, but almost to a fault, where they would find it fun to go and meet a coyote and say, do you want to play together for a while? Lambs have a very strong herd mentality, to stick with the group, to go with the flow. Yes, simple and gentle, but lambs need a lot of guidance, a lot of oversight, a lot of support. So here we have a good shepherd, one who guides, one who goes with us, one who loves us, even these silly little lambs that might cause you to roll your eyes, someone who loves them with a totality of love, a wholeness of love. In our gospel, we also have the juxtaposition right away with the difference between a shepherd and a hired hand. And I think it's just beautiful the way this comes to mind, because we're suddenly then forced to think about a type of love that would be an exchange of effort for obedience, an exchange of time for income. Exchange makes sense to us. We live that life now. We live a life where you have to give to be able to get. If you give more, you get more. If you give less, you're going to get a little bit less. Or maybe you're going to get nothing at all. But that's not the love of a shepherd. This transaction of exchange is not the love of the shepherd. This love as totality is not transactional. Notice, too, the incredible individuality in this gospel. You, as an individual, remarkably individual. I know your voice, you know my voice. I know your life, you know my life. I want to jump over to a biblical scholar for just a minute because it's so much fun. If we look at Psalm 23, and we look at it through the lens of Walter Brueggemann, Brueggemann, very, very prominent Old Testament scholar, was professor at the Columbia Theological School for years, has written so much. His words about Psalm 23, he points out that it's the companionship with God that transforms every situation. The companionship with God. Psalm 23 maybe falls into that same romantic category where we read it without really critically thinking about it and analyzing it. And so Brueggemann helps us to see that we're not talking about a world where there's no deadly valley. We're not talking about a world where there are no enemies. We're talking about a world where God is with us in those moments. So these are the words of Brueggemann. And he's focusing in on that last sentence of the psalm. And he says, the end of a state of being forlorn is access to the temple, where life is ordered anew. But he points out that this location, this temple, it's not a place, but it's the vitality of the relationship that transforms. It's the vitality of the relationship with God that transforms. So the other prominent piece here in the gospel reading is the statement, I lay down my life for the sheep, for my sheep. I lay down my life for my sheep. When we take that over to our middle reading, it starts in a very similar way. We know love by this, that he laid down his life for us, and that we ought to lay down our lives for one another. So, I mentioned we're in the middle between the day we had totality and Earth Day tomorrow. Maybe the instructions here, an option for what you might do, is to live in this liberating power of a shepherd's love. And that type of love, not transactional, gives us the power to take a risk in our love expressed to those around us. That kind of love, even if it doesn't go right, if it goes wrong, we're loved still. That's a whole different kind of relationship. If it were our birthday tomorrow, we'd know what to do. You'd have your favorite cake, you'd have your favorite meal, you'd gather with people. You'd have a whole ritual if it were your birthday. I think we should live Earth Day as a second type of birthday in the year. Wouldn't it be fun at a cultural level if we just got to, hey, what did you do for Earth Day? How did you connect with nature on Earth Day? I think we probably have a little work to get there, but this notion of taking a risk, and in that risk we find awe, and in that awe we feel the totality of God's love. That's Earth Day. So, for a spirit of curiosity, for the gift of awe, and for the totality of God's love. Thanks be to God.